Hello everyone, and welcome to my ultimate stamina sorcerer build. This is an ultimate focused burst stamina sorcerer with absolutely incredible sustain. Look at that damage right there. This build has a whopping 44% reduced cost on our ultimate. On top of it, we've got major and minor heroism. Just look at how quick we can get the ults up here. We already have the Resto ult up, and then look at the speed. A really fantastic build because we have incredible sustain as well. We can spam our ultimates. A 78 cost Resto ult on this build, really incredible, and it has awesome burst damage as well. Now, I think this build definitely excels at something like solo PvP and small group just because of how fast it is and how good the burst is. You can just engage, disengage so easily with it and hit people really hard with it as well. So I hope that you guys enjoy this build. If you guys enjoy it at any time, hit that like button. If you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button. And without further ado, let's take a look at this build. So to begin, we are a red guard on this build. Now we are a stamina sorcerer, so any stamina race is of course great for a stamina build, but red guard in specific is the best race for this build, and it is because of red guard's 8% cost reduction for our weapon abilities. This includes our ultimates, and it's a big part of why our ultimates are so cheap on this build. We really do a lot of stacking, so red guard is definitely the best race for this build, but you can do this build on another stamina race if you really want to. Red guard's just BIS. Now, taking a look at our stat page, we have got a whopping amount of stamina. We're going to switch to our front bar here. 34k stamina, almost 24k health, and 10k max mag. So pretty good max stam for the stam sorc, I think. Our health is also pretty sweet. We are in medium armor, so 24k HP is not bad at all. And then the 10k mag is more than enough for what we need on this spec. Now, taking a look at our recoveries, we've got 800 magicka recovery. I'm actually going to buff up with the potion real quick. 800 magicka, 1000 health, and 1865 stamina recovery. Now, we have a little bit less sustain on our back bar, but that's okay. So the recoveries on this build look pretty decent, but they're not actually indicative of how good the sustain is on this spec. We have the Resto staff on a stamina build. The Resto Staff Heavy will return a massive amount of magicka, and we can use that to cast dark deals, etc. And we're very fast, so this build has incredible sustain. I will say that. Just from my playtest on it, I noticed that the sustain on this build was really good. Now, taking a look at our weapon damage and our weapon critical, we'll buff up yet again here. We have got 3,942 weapon damage, and we have just around 4,650 when we have our infused enchant on our back weapon up, and then we've got a 40% crit rate. We're not running surge on this build, so having a super high crit rate isn't too terribly important for our healing. That being said, 40% is still a decent crit rate, and the 4.6k weapon damage is going to pair really nice with our 34k stamina. And then our resistances on this build, we have got some pretty decent. We've got just under 20k physical and spell resist, and then 2,285 critical resistance. Not anything crazy, pretty standard medium armor resists, but we get a lot of tank ability on this build out of how easily we can spam that Resto ultimate. So taking a look at the Mundus, we have got the Warrior Mundus. Sorc is already very fast. I know I really do like to run the Steed for a lot of builds, but for this spec, I really thought the Warrior would be the best way to go because we already have the Minor Expedition, the Streak, the Major Expedition. So yeah, I went Warrior for that damage. I think it is the better bet here. And then the food that we're using is the Artaeum Takeaway Broth. This is your best bet for a stamina build in general, and definitely this spec. Max health, max stamina, health recovery, and stamina recovery. If you cannot afford this food, you can always do the dubious Cameron Throne, but then you drop about half the health recovery on this build. So it's up to you if you want to give up that health recovery. It is very valuable in PvP, and it makes it worthwhile to spend the extra buck on the better food. And then for the potions we're using on this spec, we have got Restore Health, Restore Stamina, and the Major Savagery Potion. Now, we get our Major Savagery buff from this potion, and I opted out of running the Tri-Stat Potion simply because we didn't really need the Magicka Sustain. We have crazy Mag Sustain. If we just get one Resto Heavy off, it's like half our Magicka bar back, and that's a streak and a dark deal right there. So we really didn't need the additional Magicka recovery on this spec. If you guys want to make some changes to this build, you can definitely switch out a few skills and run Tri-Pots to your heart's content, though. All right, so let's take a look at the gear that we're running on this bad boy. So the first set that we have is, of course, Slime Craw, and we've got this for the Minor Berserk and the crit that it gives. I know we have a Resto staff, and we could potentially get Minor Berserk from that, but we just have a limited amount of slots on our bars, so if we're not going to be using the Resto staff for the Minor Berserk, I think Slime Craw is definitely BIS burst for this spec. We actually don't need to worry about cranking too high healing power on this build either, because the Resto alt heal is just so freaking strong, even if you don't have a ton of healing power. So yeah, Slime Craw for that extra burst damage. It's going to go really well with our Greatsword alt, of course, allowing us to get some nice big spikes on people. Now, the next set that we have is the Battlefield Acrobat, and this is a fantastic set for this build for a variety of reasons, but looking at that 5-piece, we have got reduce the cost of all of our abilities by 6%, and of course we get some max stam and some stam recovery on this set too. But that 6% reduction is a huge deal. It includes everything: our dodge roll, our block, our ultimates, our abilities, magicka, and stamina. So the amount of sustain that this 5-piece gives us is very, very good, and it's one of, honestly, the most underrated sustain sets in this game because of that just flat cost reduction. This, of course, will stack with our Red Guard ultimate reduction from our weapon cost reduction too. So yeah, getting a lot of reduction here for our alts just from this set. And then the next set that we have is the Dragon set. Magicka recovery, healing taken, max health, and reduce the cost of our ultimate abilities by 15%. This is such a good set specifically for a Sorcerer, I think, because Sorcerer already gets a 15% alt cost reduction. So let's do the math. We've got 15% from this set, 15% from Sorcerer, then we've got 8% from being a Red Guard, and 6% from the Acrobat. That totals a 44% reduced cost on our ultimates for this build. That's a huge deal. It pretty much means that we will be able to spam the Resto alt, and you guys will see in the game footage just how easy it is for us to have our alts up, and how reliably we pretty much always have the Resto alt up to stay alive. Now, of course, this set is also giving us a little bit of magicka recovery, and that is really nice. Outside of the mag recovery we get from this, it's honestly enough for this build with the Resto staff. Yet again, you guys can make changes if you want to run the tripods on this build. Now, taking a look at the traits on the weapons, our Resto staff is, of course, infused with the weapon spell damage enchant. Very important to give us more burst on this build. I really like Resto staff on the back bar in particular because the attack is instant at a distance. There's no other weapon in the game that gives you an instant distance light attack like that. So Resto staff is very unique in that regard, and it makes it very easy to proc this enchant with as well. Now, the traits on our Greatsword are Nirnhoned with that disease damage enchant. Nirnhoned, definitely the way to go. We are using Onslaught, so we want to have the biggest amount of damage that we can on the Onslaught, so Nirnhoned's going to be great for that. And, of course, it's going to be great for our healing with Rally. Outside of Rally, our only other heal is our Resto ultimate, but like I said, we can really spam the crap out of that, so we don't really need more than just Rally and the Resto ult, to be perfectly honest. The Disease Enchant is, of course, a fantastic option for a stamina build. It can apply the Minor Defile, which is really nice, so that's why we've got it here. And, of course, the Burst on top with the bit of damage that it does. Now, the jewelry is full infused with weapon damage, and we had to go with Dragon jewelry because Dragon is, of course, a heavy armor set, and we're playing a medium armor build here. So the infused weapon damage is going to cost you some transmutes, but if you have a magicka or a stamina sorcerer or even a warden or a dragon knight, this is a really good set, so it is worth the investment, I think, if you plan on using it across other builds as well, or if you just really like this build. Yeah, it is a bit of an investment to get that infused, but it's a really, really, really good combination for a sorcerer. And then for the gear, guys, we have actually got 3 well-fitted and 4 pieces of impenetrable. And I favored more impen on this build because we have the Acrobat set on. The Acrobat set is essentially another well-fitted trait in itself because it reduces the cost of dodge roll by 6% and reduces the cost of sprint by 6%. So it's an even better version of well-fitted in itself. So it just allows me to run a little bit more impen. To be perfectly honest, the sustain on this build is so good, you could even run 6 or 7 out of 7 impen on it just to add some bulk if you feel like that's the route that you want to go. And then for the enchants on the gear, we have got full maximum stamina. Definitely the way to go. We've got plenty of HP to work with. We don't really need any more. We don't need any more magicka either, so just pushing that damage and healing with the max stam here. All right, so let's take a look at the abilities we're using on this build. We're going to start on the Greatsword bar, which is our primary burst slash our actual heal bar too, outside of the Resto ult. So the first ability we have is Executioner, and I'm going to show you guys these tooltips because we actually have pretty nice tooltips on this build. 6k Executioner, this is our primary execute for the build, of course. It's going to hit very hard as their health begins to drop. The next ability we have is Critical Rush, 7.4k, almost a 7.5k tooltip on it. Really nice crit rush on this build, and look at that cost, 2,100 stamina. Thank you, Acrobat set, just making this cheaper and cheaper. Acrobat plus being a red guard, that is a 14% cost reduction on our crit rush. We can really use a lot of our weapon abilities on this spec, and yeah, they're going to hit nice and hard as well. Crit Rush, of course, is going to deal more damage based on the distance you are from the target, so it pairs really well with Streak, which we are running on this build as well. Now, the next skill that we have is Carve. This is your primary damage over time. So whenever a chunkier opponent is there, you dot them up with this pretty much. The bleed is going to go through their armor, which is really nice for tankier opponents. And, of course, it grants us minor heroism. Not only do we have the cheap ult cost, but we've got minor heroism from Carve, and we get major heroism from our champion tree. So we have got huge amounts of ult sustain and reduced ult cost on this build. Really, really good build for an ultimate sorcerer, I think. And now the next ability we have is Rally. This is your primary heal for the build. It's going to be a great heal over time. The Major Brutality, of course, is awesome, giving us even more weapon damage. And when we reuse this heal, or when it expires, it will give us a nice big burst heal. And this is going to be your burst heal outside of the Resto ult. Like I said, the Resto is so easy to get that ult up, so you don't have to worry too much about power healing outside of it. But if you need to heal, here's the Rally as well. And then finally, the last skill we have here is Bound Armaments, and this is slotted to give us that max stam increase by 8% and increase our light attack damage by 11%. If you guys want to run Magicka Restore Pots on this build, you take off Bound Armaments and you're going to put the Fighter's Guild skill here. And that's pretty much the trade-off. Or you can take out even the Execute, I would say. Because we have the very cheap Onslaught, the Execute's actually viable to remove on this build. So I would leave Carve, though. The Minor Heroism is really important, and the Bleed is really nice to apply pressure. So there you go. That's the option there. I think if you are comfortable playing with the Mag Sustain that this build has, which I think is more than enough, keep the Bound Armaments here. The max stam bonus is really nice, and the increased light attack damage is actually really nice too. Because we are using Imbue Weapon on this spec, we've got it on our back bar, and the increased light attack damage means that our Imbue combo is going to be even better. And then finally, for the ultimate, guys, we have got the wonderful Onslaught. Now, you can actually go with either morph of this because it costs 93 ultimate for our Onslaught. Yeah. Let's not even talk about how cheap that is. Let's talk about the fact that this is pretty much on par with the Nightblade's in-cap. The Onslaught is so good. If you get the kill with this ability, you'll get the cost back. So if we get 1 out of 5 killing blows with our Onslaughts, we are on par with the Nightblade in-cap for the amount of cost per ultimate. Very, very good. I think this is really incredible because the Nightblade in-cap is a fantastic ultimate because of how cheap it is and how easily you can get it up. Because it does not deal as much damage as Onslaught in PvP. Onslaught has the Armor Pierce, making it such a fantastic burst ultimate. So the fact that we've got it so cheap on this build, it really takes it to another level in my opinion. It makes it an ultimate that your opponent has to constantly be aware of. Even after you've casted it, it can be up within like 10-15 seconds depending on the course of the fight. So your opponents really have to watch out for this ultimate, and it is fantastic for finishing off especially tanky players. Now, if you want to go the other morph for it, you definitely can, and that's going to be great just to give you the CC immunity as well as the snare immunity for 8 seconds. So it's up to you what you want to go with here. I go with Onslaught because I am, of course, a very aggressive player when I play this game. So taking a look at the back bar, guys, this is our support bar here. Slash our kind of set bar, and of course our Resto ulting bar. So the first ability we have is Crushing Weapon, and I actually want to show you guys the tooltip on the front bar because when we use the Crushing Weapon and swap to the Greatsword, it will deal more damage. So we got a nice big tooltip coming in at 11k on our front bar, so a nice big crushing weapon. And of course, when we use this ability, it will heal us for 25% of the damage done. This ability is really good in particular with the Resto staff because we can do a light attack with the Resto staff, and then we can go right into the crushing weapon. And it will not use our crushing weapon from the initial light attack because it's an instant light attack even at a distance. So that means that we can easily do a light attack crushing weapon, swap to the greatsword bar, light attack onslaught, and then we get the entire combo in there. We get the light attack, the crushing weapon, the onslaught, all in one smack, and we can do a ton of damage on this build by comboing these attacks. And interestingly enough, this also gives us an option for a bit of ranged combat on this build. We can't deal a huge amount of damage with it at a distance, but we can poke people down. It's a fairly respectable 9k tooltip on the Resto staff. So yeah, we can still poke a squishy player down at a distance using this ability. Now the next skill that we have is Dark Deal, and I absolutely love this skill in combination with the Resto staff on the Stam Sorc. We get that beefy 8k heal, we restore 3,600 stamina, an additional 2,400 stamina over 20 seconds. It costs us 2k magicka. One Resto heavy is 5k magicka, so we can get more than 2 Dark Deals per Resto heavy on this build. It is very easy using the Resto staff and this skill to push your resource right back up. Even if you're at 0 resource, you can shoot it right back up. So I think this is kind of really sweet. To be honest, this combination on the Stam Sorc is probably one of the strongest Resto staff back bars for a Stam build that I've ever played. So there you go. The next skill that we have is Race Against Time. This is here for that major expedition and the minor force that it gives, both buffs that we're missing on this build. The crit damage is going to be nice, just pushing our damage even further in PvP. And then the major expedition is very important. And the reduced sprint cost is also nice. It allows us to stay very mobile on this build. And this, of course, has a 2k magicka cost as well. And then our next ability is Streak. This is our primary stun for the build. Now, the Streak stun itself pairs really well with Crit Rush because we can streak through an opponent, stun them, light attack with the Resto staff, weapon swap, Crit Rush into them, and get a nice big Crit Rush on them. So Streak pairs really well for that reason. It is a massive AoE stun as well. I think that's really worth mentioning because you guys will see in the footage how well you can use Streak to just shut down even a group of players if you just get a good streak through them. And of course, it's a great teleport. This keeps us very, very mobile. We have 2 streaks in a row on this build because of our limited magicka pool. That being said, though, 2 streaks is all we really need as long as we use them correctly, wait for a little bit of mag back, or do a Resto heavy, and we can streak again. And then for the armor buff, we of course have Hurricane. Minor expedition from this, so that's keeping us even faster on this build. And then we of course deal almost 1k physical damage every 1 second for 15 seconds around us. And this increases in size and damage up to 150% more. So nice ability, I think, as an armor buff. It adds a little bit more pressure when we're on top of someone, which is really great. So this mixed in with our carve will actually be able to dot something up pretty nicely and then hit them with that crushing weapon into our ability of choice on our greatsword bar for a nice big combo following it up. And of course, Hurricane is an excellent stealth detect, as Nightblades cannot cloak inside your Hurricane. They can actually cast the cloak, but it'll pull them out within 1 second, so a nice stealth detect as well. And then for the ultimate, guys, it's of course Lights Champion. You guys knew it was Lights Champion. I knew it was Lights Champion. Look at this. 9,500 health every 1 second for 5 seconds. Major protection, major force. Reduce the damage we take by 30%. Increase our crit damage by 15%. And if we are on the greatsword bar, it's even better. Let's look at this tooltip on the greatsword bar. 10k every 1 second. Oh my gosh. So yeah, a really, really good ultimate. And then just look at that cost. 78 ultimate for Lights Champion. So you can pretty much fight a Nightblade and they'll incap you and you can rebuttal every incap with a Lights Champion. The cost on this is a huge deal. You guys will see in the footage yet again how easy it is for us to get this ultimate up and just how reliable it is. I think that's the thing I really want to stress, is that this is a very reliable ultimate because of how cheap it is. We will have it up pretty much every time we need it. And yeah, that's really sweet. Alright, so let's take a look at the champion points on this spec. Starting off in our tower tree, we have got 34 Warlord, 11 Sprinter, and 6 in Bashing Focus. We've got to break free, we've got to sprint, and we've got to bash, so that's why we've got these points here. But coming over to the lover tree, we've got a lot more points. 49 Mooncalf, 43 Arcanist, and 43 in Healthy. A nice even spread here. Focus on Mooncalf because that is our primary resource return. But we don't want to neglect the others either because we have almost 1k health and 800 Magicka recovery. So getting some nice sustain there. I didn't put anything in Tenacity. You could actually put a few points here if you wanted to take him out of Arcanist possibly. Just depends how much you want to rely on the Resto Heavy versus your raw sustain. And then, of course, the nice passive we get here is Wind Running, 2% movement speed, and increased health and Magicka recovery while sprinting. Really nice for stam builds because we do a lot of sprinting, especially on this build with Major Minor Expedition up. Now, taking a look at the Shadow Tree, we've got 44 in Tumbling and 40 in Shadow Ward. Focus on Tumbling a little bit more because we're medium armor, but we don't want to neglect Shadow Ward because we do need to block a lot as well, especially when we're streaking on this build. You guys will see in the footage how important blocking while you're using your streak or even rolling while you're using your streak is on a Sorcerer. Now, taking a look at our blue tree, we've got nothing in the Apprentice. In the Atronach, we've got the standard 8139. Master at Arms, of course, giving us a huge amount of direct damage increase. All of our attacks on this build, outside of the bleed on our Greatsword, are direct damage, so really great for this spec. And then Physical Weapon Expert for that increased damage with our Greatsword light and heavy attacks. We don't worry about the staff damage at all. We have absolutely terrible staff damage on this build. The only way it can do damage is with our Imbue weapon, which is not affected by our light or heavy attacks. So that's why we go for the full Physical Weapon Expert dump here. Now, the important passives we get on this tree are, of course, Tactician. When we use Roll Dodge to dodge an attack, we set an enemy off balance. That pairs so well with the important passive from this tree, Exploiter. Increase the damage against an off-balance enemy by 10%. Not only that, but a heavy attack will also stun an off-balance target. So it adds an extra stun to this build outside of Streak as well. So it's very worth mentioning. And then, of course, the Perfect Strike passive is also a really nice passive to get for that weapon crit. And then the last stand passive for Major Heroism. When we fall below 20% health, we gain the Major Heroism, generating 3 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 8 seconds, and this is on a 20-second cooldown. I think this is one of the best passives that we get on this build, simply because when we are below 20% HP, we will likely be casting our Resto ultimate. So that means that we'll get the Major Heroism when we really need it, which is right after the Resto alt cast. Really good passive for this build in particular. And then the points are 49, 50, 51. Very even spread here to increase our base damage, increase our penetration, and increase our critical damage and healing. I think this is the best way to go for a burst build. This is a nice even spread. And then taking a look at the red tree, in the Steed, we've got a nice stacked 51, 51, 31, 31. So big focus on reducing the incoming direct damage and reducing the critical damage that we take, or increasing our crit resistance, I guess. Both very important for PvP. Lots of direct damage is some of the hardest hitting skills you'll get hit by. And then, of course, crits are very dangerous too, so you want to have some higher crit resist. Spell Shield, medium armor focus, just to bulk up our base resists. And then in the Lady Tree, we've also got a nice even spread. 32 Hardy, 32 Elemental, and 31 Thick-Skinned, reducing our incoming physical damage we take, reduce the incoming magic damage we take, and reduce the incoming damage over time that we take as well. Nice even spread just to mimic our Spell Shield medium armor here. And then in the Lord Tree, we have got a whopping 11 in Quick Recovery for that little bit of additional healing power. And that is the build, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, so let's jump into that PvP commentary. So I did actually put this build together about a week ago, but I only played it for one day. So we have one single day of PvP to show you guys. But that being said, we got in a lot of good fights with it, and the build felt very, very strong. So I really hope you guys enjoy the commentary. There you can see a nice clean burst on the player off the horse there. Kill with the Greatsword alt. Really easy to get our ult back there. And now we're going to take a bit of pressure from these guys, go around to the tree, and actually pop the Resto ult, and just look at this. We can easily just go fully offensive in our Resto ult. We don't have to worry about healing ourselves whatsoever, and quickly bring down that Templar. And we try to keep some pressure on top of this guy, go for a stun on the coming player there, and now we're just going to reset our buffs. And look at this. Our Resto ult is already up. Our Greatsword ult is already up. I mean, we've got no issues here. Take a lot of damage from these guys guys right into the Resto ult, and we're just going to kite back behind the rocks here using this streak and using that speed. Look at how much distance we can cover here. Oh my gosh. And then we're going to try to channel some Resto heavy on this guy as he kind of backs away. These guys go back to where the bodies are, so I just head back up here. We go for the Resto light attack, get a great amount of damage into him, finishing him off with the Executioner, and then we go right into our Resto ult just to tank out this damage here, and we're going to streak away. Just how many Resto ults have we put out in just this short amount of time? Yeah, really fantastic. And now we're just going to re-engage with these guys here. Go for a little bit of a light attack into the imbue weapon. Get hit by the knockback there with the bow. And just look at how many AD we got coming out of stealth. We go for a streak through one of them and then back up to the top here and then into another Resto ult here. The Resto ult, like I said, you can borderline spam it on this build. And if this first clip has shown you guys anything, it is exactly that. Just look at how we can stay in the Resto ult whenever we are threatened by these guys. We go for that Resto ult, and they cannot put us down. And now we're just going to keep poking at the group here. I don't want to fight them open field like this because we pretty much have to sit in the Resto ult in order to take the damage from all of them. So I go for a few pokes, trying to pull them this way, and then I go for some streaks around the rocks here, using my speed to kind of break some distance from the group, and we find the archer in the back here. I go for the light attack, set the imbue weapon, but this guy is just too fast. Oh, we go for the light attack, greatsword ultimate, and unfortunately we get hit by too many undodgeables. Should have gone, I think, for that Resto ult, just a little bit too greedy there. Alright, so this next fight here, we get to see yet again the speed of this build and the durability as well. And that's something I just want to stress, is that you can really cover a lot of distance on the battlefield, and you have a lot of tank ability with that Resto ult. So we got a lot of AD coming up, and of course we're playing with Scar as well. And these AD, well, they're going to come attack us. So we go inside the tower here, waiting for the AD to come. And the first player I see come out here, we try to hit him. We get him with the stun there. I go for the imbue weapon light attack there. Huge amounts of damage on him. There's the greatsword ult to finish him off. The enemy soul assault coming in. We go for our Resto ult, streak up to the corner, and roll there. And yeah, easy tank. Oh my gosh, just look at how easily we can brush off that damage with the back-to-back ults there. And now we're going to push out on top of these guys with Scar and another friendly sorc that's shown up here. This guy's fairly low HP. We try to get him with the light attack imbue there, but he does a good job just kind of weaving right behind me as I go for the attack, and we end up missing the next attack after our light attack. So we turn and go for some pressure on this archer here. The enemy players trying to stun me. I try to go for the greatsword ult, and I actually hit the wrong player with it instead of the guy I was trying to hit. So we just go for a kite up to the rocks here, a couple rolls, and we streak through. And just look at how close the resource is. Crit rush to close the distance. We go for the streak, holding block during that streak, follow with a roll afterwards, and we make it inside just safe. Almost get the Resto heavy off, but it's not enough. That's okay. We roll up the stairs, and a big reason why we were able to survive on such low stam is because of that acrobat set, and we're a red guard. It made our heals very cheap there as well. And now we're going to do our best. Look at the nice big streak stun there. We hit everybody with this streak really good, and we turn for some pressure on these guys here in our Resto ult. We get good damage into this DK. However, he's taken a lot of heals as well, so we're just going to have to keep moving around now that our ult's done. And just look, we literally just used the Resto ult, and it's almost up again. Like, I don't even know what to say about this build, guys. I think this might actually be too strong. Doesn't matter. We're going to keep fighting these guys. Really nice stun on this guy here, but he gets a lot of healing power. We did hit him with a big combo there. Go for another Resto ult as we take a lot of pressure from these guys. A nice streak through them, and just look at how many dots we have on us. We got a full Magicka bar, so I just spam our Dark Deal for a little bit to out-heal the dot damage as we re-engage with these guys. Go for the light attack imbue on the roll there. Get a good combo off on that guy, but just so many yellow, so much healing power. Really nothing I can do there. But we have the next Resto ult up, and here we go for the Resto ult into a Resto heavy. Really nice combo there because we can easily get the heavy attack off as we are protected by the healing power of the ult itself. And now we engage with these two here. We set them both off balance. Try to go for a dot there, but I decide we're going to go back for a kite as there's so many yellow. Oh my gosh. Taking so much pressure from the yellow here. We've almost got the next Resto ult up. There's the Dark Deal into the rally. The meteor comes down, and we actually get hit by the streak. We had enough ultimate to go for another Resto ult though. Damn, that tank ability. Good fight to those guys though. So moving on to the next clip here. As you can see, we're engaging with the front end of this yellow. Huge damage from Scar as well. We're doing a good job putting damage into these guys too. I actually really like how this build plays with another fast character like a sorc. The mag sorc plus this build combo, we're both so quick, and you guys will see in this fight just how good our speed is. There we actually finish the guy off, but we take a weird just self-stun. I'm not even sure what to say. I couldn't roll or anything, but go for the streak here, get a good stun off on these guys, take a nasty javelin. I don't want to pop the Resto ult, though, until we have to, though. So even though we can spam it, I'm still trying to be a little conservative when we use it. And here we see there's a lot of yellow coming out, and Scar's taking a lot of pressure. So we're just going to throw him our Resto ult here as he eats that ultimate, and we're going to streak past and try to go for a Resto heavy. The yellow just end up stunning us right away, so we go for another streak, a roll dodge, and we're just going to move out of here. Oh my god, just look at how much distance we can cover. This whole yellow group's following, and we're all going to turn around to re-engage with these guys because, man, what's running away if we can't keep poking them as we do it? So these guys are going to continue to chase us, and we're doing a great job. The other sorc here that isn't Scar, he's also helping us out, and he's doing a great job just kind of strafing through these guys and kiting them out. Our Resto ult is well ready by now, and it's good that we've got it because there's Scar in big trouble. He actually, I think, goes for his own Resto ult too. We've got 2 ults up there, so we managed to heal him, even though maybe he didn't need it. Doesn't matter. Here we see he takes another stun. I go for the body block, standing behind him and holding block as we streak. Very important that you use block as you streak on a build like this because you don't want to just let people hit you with a nasty stun for no reason. We've got the sustain to do the block and streak, so we definitely should take advantage of it, especially with a lot of yellow chasing. And here you see, I decide to go aggressive on these guys off to the side here. I go for the Resto ult preemptively because I know they're going to come and hit us hard. And there you see, they do a lot of damage, but the preemptive Resto ult just saving my butt there. And we're just going to come back upstairs, go for the heavy attack into the Dark Deal. Just return so much resource with that. Unfortunately, we do a bad streak and fall there. This guy overextending from the rest of his group, so we're just going to finish him off with the Executioner there as Scar hits him with some attacks as well. And now we're just going to wait for the yellow to come in here. A lot of yellow out here, so we're just going to be patient as they pile up at the door here. There we see the Soul Assault come in. I go for the Greatsword heal, and I just reset my buffs. I don't want to use the Resto ult. I don't want to panic use it, like I said. There we see this guy takes a lot of damage. I fall through here, just attracting some of the yellow as well, which is a good call, I think, because we see the other sorc come around the corner, so he managed to survive that. Scar taking a lot of pressure from these guys. I see all the players here, and I get behind them and cast my Resto ult, and we managed to get a single yellow player yet again. Scar is off, killing him because he's off by himself, and I just kind of tank those guys out with the Resto ult, turn onto this archer in the back here, and he goes in stealth. We want to prevent the res. Nice interrupt there. Just going to go for a Dark Deal, return a little bit of stamina here. I'm making sure to keep the coverage with my Greatsword AoE there. Really nice streak through this group yet again. And yeah, we're just continuing to tickle the front end of this group. I'm actually surprised we're holding the end here. The Mag Sorc pets plus the amount of sustain that we have easily diving back in there. Not really getting a lot done other than just soaking up a lot of damage for our friendly players. I think it's important that we have this rotation down because it just allows us to continue to work this group. We catch this guy by himself, huge amounts of damage, but he's getting massive heals from the other yellow. This guy's trying to get the res. We're going to streak through him after stunning all those other yellow as well. We get a great combo off on him there. The second imbue weapon combo, huge damage yet again, but he manages to just slink away. Oh my gosh, we try to get the imbue weapon into the light attack, and I just fall off the edge. Rip that kill, and now we're just going to come back up to the top as Scar has gone down, so we're going to have a bit more pressure to deal with. Take the stun from that guy there, no big problems here. Come back around the corner and just reset our heals and buffs, and now we've got all these yellow, a really nice streak through the entire group there, just stunning everyone, and channel a cheeky Resto heavy attack off on that guy to get some magicka back. And there we see the enemy guy. He goes into stealth, so I just streak, go around the corner, and reset my buffs yet again. So the other EP has gone down, and I'm pretty much going to fight the losing fight because, well, retreating is just simply not an option. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the footage. I hope that you guys enjoyed this build. I really enjoyed the theory behind it, and putting this one together was a lot of fun. Just trying it out and playing it was really fun too. It was so fun that I got the footage in one day, so Maybe we'll play this a little bit more. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. We play live on Twitch. If you guys want to see the live gameplay, my Twitch, of course, is in the link in the description below. We also feature community clips, be it top 5 PvP battles or a build that you guys want to send in. You guys can send that to KristoferESO@hotmail.com. And finally, guys, we are sponsored by What the Fast. They're a VPN for gamers, and they give me better ping to ESO, free to try for the first 14 days. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the build, and I'll see you next time.